So we know how animals make more animals. How do plants make more plants? With the help of animals, of course. Whether it's spreading seeds on the ground or getting animals to just eat them, plants have a unique way of passively sowing their wild oats. But the real magic is in pollination. We all know that bees are the masters of pollination, but Isaacson's Brazilian tree frog might just give them a run for their money. It all gets a little sticky here in life, death, and taxonomy.
Welcome back to Life, Death, and Taxonomy. It's your 30 minutes of interesting animal information. I'm Joe.
And I'm Carlos.
Thank you to Cassie for the creation of our theme song. To hear more of Cassie's music, please search Cassie Michelle on YouTube or Spotify.
And thank you to Johanna for the creation of this week's artwork. To check that out, you can visit us at our home on the web at ldtaxonomy.com. If you have not checked that out, if you've just been listening on Pocket Casts or Apple Podcasts, then you are missing out on just amazing artwork from all of our episodes all the way back to episode 1. We've had Johanna do these last many episodes, and we had Brian do all the ones before that. And just peruse our library of animal pictures, hand drawn. It's great. Visit us ldtaxonomy.com.
Digitally drawn.
But like you use a hand and a stylus.
With a hand. Yeah.
It is hand drawn. Like hand scooped ice cream. Doesn't it taste better when you know that a hand scooped it? A grubby hand just dug its fingers into your ice cream and plopped that wet slop onto your plate. A plate of ice cream. You know how you eat ice cream.
What is this alternate dimension you're eating ice cream in?
And also a huge thank you to our patrons, Tristan Taylor, Jesse Raspolich, Carol Raspolich, and Richard Kaspar. Your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for making this show possible, for helping us keep the lights on, and for you're giving us your support, which means the world to us, really. So thank you.
And today we're talking about a slimy little yellow guy, but more on that later.
Yeah, pretty.
Gudetama. We're talking about Gudetama.
Oh, I forgot about Gudetama, the anime egg yolk.
Yeah. Yeah, he's called the sad egg, but he's not even just an egg.
He's just the yolk.
The egg whites are his bed.
He's a demonic. He's a possessed yolk.
He's possessed.
I mean, he was an inanimate object that's just been given life.
All anthropomorphized objects are demon possessed.
He looks like he would be right at home in a Miyazaki movie, and all of those things are like demon possessed. But I mean, like in those movies, demons are like,
or spirits, yeah,
not necessarily good or bad.
Well, it is Sanrio, so it's the same universe as Hello Kitty,
and that's a demon. Very clearly, a very lucrative demon. There's Wormwood, and then there's Hello Kitty. But what are we talking about?
We're talking about. Hold on. Let me get the computer voice to tell me what we're talking about.
Oh, you can read this one. It looks more complicated than it is.
Izecksohn's?
Isaacson's.
Oh my gosh, it does look more complicated than it is. Izecksohn's Brazilian tree frog.
It's Isaac if you spelled Isaac Izeck.
It's Isaac if you were 90s radical about it.
No, Isaac would be Izeque. Q-U-E. Isaac.
It's Izecksohn.
So that has like a Scandinavian feel to it.
I guess, yeah.
Izecksohn.
Yeah, I guess.
So it's the son of Isaac. So Esau. This is Esau's Brazilian tree frog. the Edomite Brazilian tree frog. But yeah, we're gonna call it here the Germinator, the fruit of the bloom, and pollination army gonna dun, 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 dun. Cause get it? Cause frogs are an army.
Yeah. I have a joke about that later.
I stole your thunder. The first two are courtesy of Bibby, Germinator and Fruit of the Bloom.
That's pretty. Those are very good.
Yeah.
Considering.
And I was downstairs right before recording this, and I said, "Oh, by the way, we're doing a tree frog that pollinates and it eats fruit. Well, what's give it to me. Like what are the text me some nicknames." And she did in like minutes. So
she's hiding it under a bushel. It just emerges.
The city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden, you
know. Would you like to hear what science calls this?
Yeah, I would.
It's in the kingdom, love and are in the kingdom Animalia. It's in the phylum Chordata. It's in the class Amphibia. Amphibians. That's salamanders. It's in the order Anura. That's frogs. It's in the family Hylidae. That's Hylians. Like Link.
Oh, you're playing Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah. It's actually a wide-ranging family of frogs. It's in the genus Xenohyla. Or is it Xenohyla? I'm thinking because it's Hylidae, it's Xenohyla.
Xenohyla, yeah.
It's in the species Truncata. Xenohyla truncata.
Yeah. So you may have an upper hand because there's some noticeable linguistic elements to this nomenclature. Because this brings us to nitty-gritty nomenclature. Since we already know that frogs join together to form an army, let's talk about what Xenohyla truncata means in English. Does it mean A, strange short forest, B, truncated foreign lover, C, outer cloven toe, or D, shortened new tree? It's just like all of them are just 3 words. Red jumpsuit apparatus.
Outer cloven toe sounds like a red herring because it's too perfect. What? Give me the other ones again.
Strange short forest, truncated foreign lover, outer cloven toe, and shortened new tree.
I'm going to go with the cloven toe. Final answer.
You've caught yourself a red herring.
Was it the tree?
It is strange short forest. Xeno means strange. Hyla is forest or woods.
Even before you gave me the options, I thought it was like outside or outer because of the way that it lives on the coast, like on the, like it doesn't, if you look at its range, it's like very coastal. I was like, oh, maybe it's going to be like the outer edges of the country. So it's like,
I thought you would, because I was not when I learned that Xeno meant strange, that was a bit of an eye opener because based on the way that people use the word xenophobia these days, you'd think it means foreign.
That's what I thought. It was like fear of outsiders.
Right, but I mean, literally, it means fear of strange things, which is a human trait. Turns out, being a little bit off-put by strange things has kept us alive.
But it's not a raccoon trait. We learned.
Right. But yes, Xenohyla truncata, and truncata means what it sounds like, truncated, shortened, cut. So, yeah, strange short forest.
Dang.
But hyla could also be used. It means forest or wood, but it could also mean it could be a metonym for like forest frog. So you could say strange short forest frog. But yeah.
Such a meta little nim. Okay. Do you want to know what it looks like?
I do. That was my best Thanos impression.
Thanos?
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, he does sound like exasperated a lot.
Well, when Tony's like, "You know my name?" It's like, "I do. You're not the only one cursed with knowledge." And then they don't expand on that ever, but you know.
Brazilian tree frogs are brown, bright yellow, or yellow-orange, with lighter underbellies, as is the way.
This is the way.
Yeah. Young frogs have a white stripe down their sides because a seven-nation army couldn't hold them back.
There we go. But this is a pollination.
So did you say that
I said pollination
joke because of the white stripe that the juveniles have?
No, I said it because pollination army sounds very similar to Seven Nation Army.
Wow. So
it has nothing to do with the white stripes. I didn't even know
we
about
came
that.
to the white stripes from two different roads.
Yeah.
That's
all
incredible.
roads lead to white stripes.
So they have dark reddish brown eyes. They're shaped like a typical tree frog, sitting flat against the surface with powerful legs coiled up for a leap. Tree frogs maintain constant moisture, which gives it a glossy sheen. And I can confirm that they are kind of cute. They have big eyes. They're bright yellow. They're striking. And they got the, big wet eyes, like anime style. So that's
the cutest eyes are the wettest ones, I say.
Yeah.
I don't care who disagrees with me. Dry eyes are gross.
Yeah, get some clear eyes.
Oh, I only think it's only eyes that are wet with tears. Which in my house is like that's all the eyes.
Tears of the kingdom, more like.
Everyone is weeping in this house.
But not gnashing teeth. And that's okay. So let's talk about the size and dimensions. Welcome to the beloved Measure Up segment, the official listener's favorite part of the show. The part of the show when we present the animal size and dimensions in relatable terms through a quiz that's fun for the whole family. It's also part of the show that's introduced by you when you send in audio of yourself saying, singing, or chittering the words Measure Up into ldtaxonomy.com. We don't have a new Measure Up intro this week, which means we get to hear from a tree frog and have that introduce the show. I love when the thing is something we can hear from. I prefer to hear from the listener, but if I can't, I like to hear from the animal itself. Without further ado.
It means our ears are about to be assaulted by something horrendous. Probably a commercial.
Without further ado, the listener's favorite part of the show. That's a common tree frog.
That was pretty good because most of the videos, you say without further ado, but there's usually a lot of ado before we actually get to hear the person.
The listener never hears the accidental ads that I play.
Or what about like the long this is a 2-minute video with one squawk from the bald eagle or something like
I
that.
Usually try. Sometimes I'll leave it in, especially if it's notable and we talk about it afterward for too long. I'll leave in a little bit of the silence, but I try not to all the hiccups that come with trying to play a YouTube video live. I try not to leave them in. But this is the time, the age of Measure Up, where we are trying to do an exercise in empathy. And that doesn't mean the questions will be easier. What it does mean is that they will be about stuff that Carlos is interested in.
The age of measure up has come. The age of empathy.
The age
has
of
come.
measure up empathy, yeah. This is usually a segment about the stuff that I'm interested this week. But since Carlos has to go through the turmoil of answering math questions, let's try to put ourselves in Carlos's shoes. What does he want to hear about? Okay, so let's talk about length. It's between 3 and 4 centimeters, or 1.5 inches. How many tree frogs go into the barrel length of the fabled Colt Buntline Special?
Buntline.
Here's a hint. The Colt Buntline was a revolver described by Stewart N. Lake in his largely apocryphal biography of Wyatt Earp. The pistol was said to be a custom version of the Colt single-action Army revolver. However, it is possible that Lake willed the gun into existence because there is no record of the pistol's existence before his book was published. So he might have described it, people thought it was interesting and cool, and then they made it for real.
So this might be a situation of real life reflecting art instead of the other way around.
Right.
So I imagine it's like a really long barrel. I have seen some of those revolvers with just like rifle barrels on them. Most revolvers have like a... I think those just standard revolvers have like a 4-inch barrel. So imagine it's longer than that.
See, you have a frame of reference for.
But you didn't give it to me. I anchored myself.
No, but I'm saying because you know you're interested in guns, you have a frame of reference. It's better than mountains.
And whenever I hear units. Of Wyatt Earp, I think of Wiley Burp from 50 Goes West.
Which I didn't know as a kid that was a reference to a real historical person. And now that I do, that's really funny.
Yeah, it is really funny.
Wiley Burp.
I'm going to say this was a 20-inch barrel.
Is that a final answer? Oh,
no, because my final answer is
frogs.
13 frogs go into the length of this barrel.
Okay, the barrel of the Colt Buntline was said to be 12 inches. Or 300 millimeters long. So that is more than 6. A little more than 6. 7. How many frogs is that? I didn't do the math. Why didn't I do the math?
12.
12 divided by 1.5. 8. A little more than 7, also known as 8.
So I was thinking a comically long
Me too.
barrel. And
I typed in longest revolver barrel. Or longest pistol barrel. And it gave me this, and I was like, this is not the longest, but it's interesting because it's history.
Because you have those like pistol carbines, which are technically pistols, but they are, they're set up like rifles.
Yeah.
So those have really long barrels.
Well, I assumed there would be something that was comically long, like something that's not functional at all, but they made it because they can.
Yeah, that's what I was envisioning. Is just the thing longer from Futurama.
No, it's just 12 inch. It does look long. Like it doesn't look like. It looks like someone stretch that normal Western revolver? They stretch it a little bit.
Yeah, but a 20-inch barrel is like you could shoot people or use it as a pool cue.
But yeah, there's that. Now I scoured for a short amount of time. I scoured for their weight, but this thing was just discovered when I was 7 years old watching The Lion King. So they haven't had a lot of time to pick it up and measure
and put it on a
weight.
scale.
Yeah.
It's only been 20 something years.
Yeah. But instead, we're going to talk about the size of the genus. There are only 2 frogs in the genus Xenohyla. The other is Xenohyla eugenioi, which is native to northeastern Brazilian rainforests. So, how many Xenohyla sizes, 2, go into the number of human babies born each day? Do you know which one of your interests this is?
Yeah, I would definitely say this plays to a bigger part of my life than guns.
Here's a hint. Today, there were around 607 born in Florida alone. Doesn't that sound crazy? Like, there's a lot of people, but there was 600 new people in the state I live in right now.
Today. But then it's like, how many people died in the state of Florida from rattlesnake bites and alligator chomps?
And being old.
And blowing themselves up as Florida man. Or being eaten by a tiger that you own. People born worldwide in one day. And there's...
Oh my gosh. Arkansas.
6.5 billion people. Which I only remember from Doctor Who episodes because he kept saying there's 6 billion people down there.
25 are born every hour in Florida.
Well, we'll be adding to that statistic whatever hour our latest will be born. I'm gonna say 1 million. Just because I don't feel like thinking about this. I don't think that thinking about this anymore will help. So the answer is 500,000. Because there's 2 members of the genus Xenohyla. Final
answer?
Yep.
The correct answer is inexplicably 192,000.
Wow, so it's only like 400,000.
385,000. Yeah. Which you think, like, if 600 were born in just Florida, how could there not be millions in the world? Let me just make sure that wasn't just no.
There are a lot of people in Florida, though, comparative to a lot of other places. Most other places, you could probably make the case that most other provinces.
10,000 born per day in the United States. And there's been 10,157 so far today.
Oh, that just averages 200 per state. So since we got 605, that means Alaska got like a -3.
Alaska had 27.
Well, hopefully we're outpacing the death rates. Otherwise, Elon Musk is right, and we're going to have a major population crisis in the next little bit.
That's it for that. Would you like to hear some fast facts before we get into the major fact?
I sure would.
The Brazilian tree frog can be found in the southern border, from the southern border of Espírito Santo down to Ilha da Marambiai. I don't know. Is that AIA? How do you pronounce that in Spanish?
Aya?
Yeah. It enjoys tropical, moist broadleaf forests, also called restingas, which sounds nice. I want to go rest at a restinga. I'm going to take a siesta at a restinga. If you were to turn over one of these broadleaves to find a tree frog, it might put its head down, spread out its limbs, and puff up to frighten you and any other would-be predators off. This action might not, if it doesn't frighten you, maybe it will break up the frog's pattern and make you lose sight of it. They breed in temporary pools and puddles that form during seasonal rains, which isn't rainforest like raining all the time. Maybe it rains.
It's raining quite a bit.
It's raining right now, probably. And then I'll cut this out if it's too much of your major fact, but a fact that could have been major, if it weren't for another more major fact, is the fact that they are the only frugivorous frog in the world that we know about.
Yeah.
And I'll leave the rest of that for later on. But because they eat particular plants that contain toxic alkaloids, they too have toxic skin. If you eat it, you might damage your kidneys or liver. So don't eat it. If you're walking through the rainforest and you see a brightly colored frog and you eat it,
that's on you.
That's kind of on you. Yeah.
That's survival of the fittest right there. And you've just been selected straight out.
If it's easy to see, don't eat it.
Yeah, if it looks like it wants you to eat it. Yeah.
It's either a poison dart frog or a Tide Pod, and you shouldn't.
Either way, you're going to be in for a rough ride.
But I'm going to leave it at there. Do you have any big facts?
Yeah, I've got the major fact, which I forgot I had initially called Pollination Army before I turned it into before I decided to move it up to the one of the nicknames. But yeah, so as you mentioned, most frogs eat mostly insects. That's their main source of food. They are carnivores, even though they're not in the order Carnivora. But this frog is one of the only ones in the world to eat exclusively fruit. Like you said, it's frugivorous.
It's frugal and frugivorous.
It's been frugiven. But it doesn't just eat fruit. It cultivates it. So the Brazilian tree frog, or Izecksohn's Brazilian tree frog, is the only frog on Earth that we know of that might actually pollinate flowers, like a bee. So we don't talk
farming.
Yeah, we don't talk too much about plants here on Life, Death, and Taxonomy. We're mostly concerned with one kingdom to rule them all. That's Animalia. Mm-hmm. But you might be surprised to learn that the plants need to reproduce just like animals need to reproduce. But since they can't move to get their groove on, they have to have a much more passive way of knocking boots and reproducing. A huge part of their reproduction is a result of seed dispersal and pollination. So some plants release their seeds into the wind, they drop them on the ground, or they wrap their seeds in tasty treats, aka fruit, so that animals will eat them and then poop them out somewhere else, planting the seed. But plants also need to get their DNA from one plant to another in order to preserve genetic diversity. And they do this by pollination, meaning that they either release pollen into the air, or animals that eat their nectar or fruit carry pollen from one plant to another of the same species. So if you've ever wondered why plants provide fruit, it's because fruit has seeds in it, and it wants to get eaten. It wants to be found. It's like the One Ring. And it wants those seeds to pass through a digestive system and be deposited elsewhere in order to grow more trees. So the Brazilian tree frogs the Izecksohn's Brazilian tree frogs love the fruit of the milk fruit plant. And they also love to eat the nectar of its flowers, which is also a pretty unique thing among frogs is eating nectar. So they'll all get together on these plants and they'll jostle around and as they eat the fruit and lap up the nectar. But their skin will get covered in these pollen grains. This is pretty much exactly the way bees pollinate. They go and they collect nectar to bring back to the hive, and as they do that, they land on the sections of the flower that deposit pollen on them that stick to them, and then they take it to other flowers and deposit it, and that's how the reproductive system of plants or flowers work, at least. And this germinates them, so they have the germinator. They're unstoppable. You can't reason with it. You can only hope to slow it down. So they actually end up doing both seed dispersal and pollination, because they'll eat the fruit, but they'll also collect they'll also get the pollen stuck to them. And so they will bring that pollen to other plants, and then they'll also poop the seeds out somewhere else, which causes the growth of new plants. So that's pretty much it for the major fact. I mean, it's the only frog that we know of that eats fruit, and it also manages to cultivate that fruit as it eats. Completely on accident. It's not like, oh, look at this very intelligent frog that's farming fruit. It's, look at this frog that's eating the thing that it loves, and it just happens to make more of the thing that it loves as it eats and poops.
Look at this frog that's forsaken the bug way and has decided to be a frugivore. Yeah, that's kind of a twofer, because it's crazy that they eat fruit. Frogs don't do that. They usually eat anything that fits in their mouth that moves. In fact, we talked about a bug that tricks a frog by moving in a certain way a long time ago.
Yeah, the Apomus beetle.
Yeah. So it's funny that like these frogs have been like decided to eat the fruit, which is smart to do if you live in a rainforest. There's lots of fruit.
Yeah, these frogs are like, on one hand, we could eat insects, and some of those insects will kill us slowly from the inside out if we try to eat them. Or, now hear me out, we could eat just these delicious sweet fruits that are static and we don't have to chase them, and they will not try to kill us. So
yeah,
everyone who wants to eat the fruit say aye. The ayes have it. All right, we're going we're going up the street to eat the fruit.
I'm glad that they have a parliamentary system.
Yes. They have representatives from each genus.
There's two.
It's
a bipartisan.
There's no
system.
pollination without representation.
They do supplement with insects when the moon strikes, and the moon strikes when the fruit's not available. But they're not above eating a bug. But man, you got to imagine, as soon as an animal gets a taste of that sweet forest fruit, they're on their adaptational train to frugivordom.
Yeah, it's that sugar dopamine release,
Yeah,
that you just don't get from a crunchy bland cricket unless you've got some like salt and vinegar on it, or like some sour cream and onion.
Mm-hmm.
Then the crickets really flavors really pop,
I want us to do that, but instead of going from being like these omnivores that primarily eat meat and vegetables, I want us to go from that to being ice cream vores. We primarily eat ice cream. That would be great.
Can we change our metabolism and digestive systems to primarily function on ice cream? That would be great. Yeah.
But then you have the ice cream wars, and now you're back to eating meat, and you can't digest it well.
The ice cream wars. I mean, one side loves hand-scooped ice cream.
Yeah.
The other side says it's really unsanitary.
And that's unacceptable. That's hogwash.
Yeah, and they fought and killed each other, and then we had to go back to meat and salt.
Alrighty.
But yeah, that's Izecksohn's Brazilian tree. I don't know. It's like this weird Scandinavian name, and then it's a Brazilian tree frog. This Izecksohn's does not look Brazilian at all. But it's probably some Swedish guy that went over to Brazil and said, "I'm naming this after me, the son of Isaac."
Yeah, and when I was watching The Lion King and 7 years old, doesn't that seem? It's always crazy. I know people discovering frogs like all day, every day, but it's funny whenever you see like 1990s in a discovery column on Wikipedia.
Yeah, and in a few weeks we're going to cover a fish that they just discovered like a month ago. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, you got anything else?
That's all I got.
All right, that was Izecksohn's Brazilian tree frog. For you out there in Podcastia, pick your favorite fruit. Slurp up some tasty nectar and cover yourself in pollen like Izecksohn's Brazilian tree frog here in life, death, and taxonomy.
Hey Taxonomy Titans, I just want to remind you that we now have a Patreon. Patrons can see full video episodes and get shoutouts on the show. But ultimately, it's a way for you to help us cover some costs and get even better. Still, reviews are the best way to help us grow. So if you haven't left one yet, we'd really love to hear from you. As always, thanks for listening and engaging.
Life, Death, and Taxonomy is my favorite in the world podcast.
Or if you live in Jacksonville in the spring, you will be covered in pollen whether you do it or yourself or not.